to Introduction to LEED Building Design and Construction Homes, Midrise version 4. This course is approved for 1 hour in continuing education units, AIA HSW, LEED AP specific, AIBD, NARI Green, Certified Green Home Professional, and may be applicable to your local state-based design or contractor license. Today, I will actually be both the moderator and the presenter. My name is Brett Little, and I'm the executive director here at the Green Home Institute. We're a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. We couldn't do it without you, so still thankful to those of you who have made big donations to our events to allow us to keep them going, our members, our raters, our volunteers, presenters, our board of directors, and our major sponsors, Andersen Windows and Panasonic. And so here we are, Introduction to LEED version 4. Our goal here is to basically just describe the rating system, each of the basics and prerequisites of the credit category systems, help you be able to communicate to your stakeholders about the LEED for Homes program, and then know where to go and get additional support. LEED is huge. It's probably the most internationally recognized green building rating system with over 100,000 certified homes, multifamily, mid-rise, across the globe at this point. Obviously, the commercial sector is a lot larger, but the residential sector has picked up globally, and we even have been able to be involved in projects outside of the U.S. and outside of Canada. One of the values of this is it's an independent third-party certification. So oftentimes where there's concerns about code, you know, it's to help get above the code, and even issues where, you know, code isn't being met. This is a program that's going to help give people that that guarantee that that there is a sustainability component and health and wellness in the project. And it is a marketing tool. It's a huge marketing tool as a way to showcase as a builder, developer, designer, rater, you name it, that you're committed to sustainability, because there is a lot of greenwashing out there. And so this is one tangible way to verify your team's commitment. There are a lot of different benefits, and on top of this, Fannie Mae has released some new benefits for multifamily housing developers who use the LEED program, for both new and existing, to get discounts on their mortgage rates. The American or the Appraisal Institute recognized LEED as a way to get higher value to homes, so that gives homeowners more borrowing power to help pay for some of the upfront costs of LEED certification, as well as just, again, that that quality assurance that you're getting a healthier, more energy efficient, above code home that's recognizable in the market as one of the top standards. And today's LEED homes come in all shapes and sizes, all the way from affordable, low income, under the AMI, up to high-end projects, all the way from single-family gut rehabs, all the way up to large, up 20 stories and above, mixed-use multifamily mid-rise can all benefit from the LEED for Homes and mid-rise program. Real quick, again, here are all of the scopes that we can look at. Gut rehabs are a little bit challenging because they require the thermal envelope to be exposed on the interior or exterior, as well as the bathroom needs to be gutted out as well to get a non-paper face or ATSM certified backer board to prevent mold. And so if you're not planning on gutting the house, and you're just planning an addition or weatherization or remodel, you might want to look at another program like the Green Star Home Certification, National Green Building Standard Small Projects, or Enterprise Green Communities for multifamily, because you cannot use LEED. Now, there are some new exceptions for gut rehabs that will allow the avoidance of under slab insulation, so make sure to check the workbook for that. and if you're doing a LEED project now, it does require slab insulation and some foundation work that you may be able to avoid from the Energy Star program during a gut rehab, which could be preventative. But there are still many gut rehab programs even in LEED version 4. So again, LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's basically similar to a sustainability fact sheet, so people can understand in what areas the building performs and excels. Similar to the way that you might go shopping and purchase food based on what your dietary needs are. Some of the major changes, and we're not going to get into these too much here, but we will be doing. We do have a session on a whole session on comparing the changes, which you can find on our YouTube channel or USGBC's website. But you can see there's been 19 credits removed, 38 that have been changed, 14 that have stayed the same, 13 that have just been shuffled around, and 7 that are new. So you can see 47% of the program hasn't changed versus 2008. There are now 110 total points, so we sort of closed that point threshold. There used to be 136. Many of the names are still familiar. They actually don't have any numbering in V4, and to some frustration of many architects, there is no numbering. And to those of you who tend to sit around and spout off LEED credit numbers and confuse the rest of the team with acronyms, perhaps this helps you, spell things out a little bit better. So you could argue either way, but many are frustrated about the lack of numbering compared to 2008. Single-family low-rise and mid-rise are now all combined into one checklist, though when you are registering the projects, they are still separate registration requirements. And overall, you're going to find that without any significant changes from what you normally do, that you'll typically just lose a level. So if you were used to getting LEED gold, you'll probably go down to LEED silver, and we're finding that to be pretty well in practice on the many projects we've overseen. And again, here you can just see what % of points you needed to pick up to get certification. So 33% in 2008 for certified, now 35%, 44% for silver, now 45%. Nearly the same for gold as far as percentage of points go, but that doesn't mean the points are, they're still a little bit more difficult. And then a huge jump to get to platinum, almost another 9% there, 6% there. Okay, so let's jump into the rating system. The integrative process is the first place you're going to want to start. This is formerly the Integrated Design ID credit. This is where you're going to have your integrative project team. You want to get everyone together. You want to make sure that they're communicating. You want the builder, designer, the HVAC, especially the electrical, the plumbing, depending on how big the project is, landscape architect, homeowner, developer owner, getting everybody together and having design meetings throughout the project construction and communicating the changes, communicating the your lead rater, communicating the changes to the if there are changes during the process, and just making that's being documented and that people are communicating. That's one of the biggest failures of projects as to why they don't achieve certain standards, or quite frankly, at the worst, why people get sued, is that people aren't communicating. And so easy to say, but LEED tries to give you some formats to do that in the context of sustainability that's required. If you want to go above and beyond that, you can have a full-blown 8-hour design shred broken up between 2 4-hour sessions, or 1 2 and 1 6, that happen during different stages of design, and get some extra credit for that. And that's where you're getting the whole team together, getting the rater together, and kind of just going through the checklist. And you find during these sessions that ideas, people thought of on their own but never spoke up about them, sort of come out, and people really get to see how their trade fits in to each aspect of the program. And then trades training, which is a very new credit. And so this is training the HVAC contractor, the plumber, the insulator, the builder. And these are hands-on trainings that need to be held that are in regards to actual LEED certification. If you've got a local Habitat for Humanity chapter that actually loves volunteerism and they're using LEED or want to use LEED, this is a perfect place where some of the subs and the contractors can go and get that training while also helping Habitat and meeting their sustainability standards. We've seen that happen before. And some of the training can be done, obviously, sitting around online, but the whole goal is to train people and show that it's been done and then pick up some extra points. That's not supposed to be there. Okay, and then moving on to energy and atmosphere. So this system, just like 2008, somewhat the same. There is both a performance and a prescriptive pathway to the program. Now the performance path or the prescriptive pathway, this is a great place to start if you don't, on the right side here, if you don't have an energy modeler who's got REMRate hired yet or selected yet. The great thing about this is you can go through individually and you can look at, how big do we want our home to be, how many bedrooms, how do we orient the building to take advantage of the sun, how tight are we going to get this building based on past projects we've done, insulation, window U values, space heating, sizing, and efficiencies, heating and cooling distribution systems, your hot water system. Lighting is a very interesting one where if you're using the prescriptive pathway, you're basically going to be doing a lot of calculations, and there's not a calculator yet for it, but I imagine one will be developed, where you're looking at lumens per square foot. At the end of the day, if you just do, if you reduce the size, if you reduce the amount of bulbs and do all LED and don't overlight the room, you're going to be sitting good. But there are calculations for that. And then Energy Star appliances, and then if you're throwing on renewable energy systems, you can use that. So this is a great way to, if you're not an energy modeler and you don't have one retained yet, the prescriptive pathway is a great way to really, you can use it to get started and get you really on a good track. And then, so when you do get your HERS index rater, which we'll go over who those people are here soon, hired, you'll have something to give them and get them started in the right direction, and hopefully, reduce maybe their costs and having to do all of this front-end modeling. Now, we don't really recommend following the prescriptive pathway outright, and I think 90% of projects I'd have to look actually certify under the performance pathway. But again, this is just an easy way to get started based on what you know. So on the left are the performance pathway, and then you can see the ones in the lighter shade are the ones that you use for mid-rise and homes, and the ones in the darker shade of orange are the ones that are homes only. So the mid-rise buildings, 4 stories and over, are only using these particular credits. So what is LEED built on? So first, LEED is built on the HERS index rating, and used to be 85 was the baseline, and then it changed to 70 in 2014, and so now it has maintained 70 under the version 4 rating system. And then from there you move up to the Energy Star Homes certification program. Now, to be clear, you don't actually have to certify under Energy Star for homes. But you can get, and you can't get any extra credit if you do, but that's the way it is right now, as I'm saying this recording here in November 2016. But I do suspect that may change, and so you might want to start looking into using the actual certification. But you are required, every project now is required to be listed on the National HERS Index Registry. So your HERS Index rater can't just perform a draft model for you. They do actually have to get you the certificate and have the project listed. One thing that's unique now is under REMRate, which is the tool that powers the HERS index rating, is the LEED energy budget. Now, at the very least, this is required if your project has unique energy users that are outside of the HERS index REMRate program. So for example, if you have ice dam melters, if you have driveway heater, if you have a hot tub, this program actually has to be used because it can account for those things, whereas the HERS index doesn't. In the old LEED rating system, you actually got a pass and didn't have to account for the energy-sucking hot tub or heated driveway. Now we're looking at this. I think the other neat thing that I like about this tool is it really focuses on energy use per year, and it helps you work with your client, talking about how much they really want to spend per year, and then you can work with them to design it down, and increase their energy efficiency and reduce their emissions. Whereas the HERS index rating does do that, but it focuses on this sort of arbitrary number that really doesn't mean anything other than it's more efficient than the other homes around it. But it doesn't really tell you up front how much you plan to use per year and how much that might end up costing, at least not up front. Now, I don't want to throw it under the bus because it isn't in the report, but it's not the highlighted part where this actually is. The other benefit to this tool is that if you're doing smaller projects and doing all electric projects, the HERS index actually tends to punish smaller homes and reward larger homes, as well as it punishes electric homes because of the loss of transmission electricity versus natural gas. So this tool actually might work in your benefit. So you can actually switch between the LEED energy budget, and here's a little video about how your HERS rater can use it. You can find it on USGBC's website. To switch between this tool and the HERS index rating, and determine which one's going to get you more points in the rating system if you're sort of one of those under 2,000 square feet homes, maybe using all electric. But you can switch and see which one's going to be more rewarding to your project, and I highly encourage you to work with your energy rater to have them. It should generate that report when they do it, so you can see which one's going to reward you more in the rating system. So there we go, HERS index rating, Energy Star for homes, and then that is your simple pathway to LEED for homes from an energy standpoint. If any of you remember the 2008 program, you would have this thing called a home size adjuster that would increase your threshold. So so if you needed 80 points to get to platinum, and you had a really large home with not that many bedrooms, it might require you to get 90 points to get to platinum, or vice versa. If you had a small home with more bedrooms, it might require you only 20 points to get to platinum. Well, that's been removed really. Now what happens in the Energy Star program is you have the Energy Star home size adjuster, and depending on your square feet versus your number of bedrooms, you have a sliding scale of a HERS index rating that you have to hit somewhere between 70 and 75. And then it also can help, again, if you have a smaller home with more bedrooms, you can get more points in just the energy category, not in the all the other categories. Those don't get impacted anymore by the size of the home. Here's the other thing: is Energy Star is you've got a full-blown checklist that the builder needs to look at. The builder also needs to go and get approved by Energy Star, so they go online. It's not a quick test. It helps them understand the system for low-rise projects on air leakage, air barriers, thermal envelope, and then it has items in there for the HVAC quality installation system, making sure that the heating and cooling system is properly sized, properly installed. And then there is a water management piece, but that doesn't have anything to do with energy, and now that's been actually set aside to the materials and resource section, which we'll go over in a second. And another thing to note, to get an Energy Star certified home, you do have to have a credentialed heating and cooling contractor, and so that credential can cost a heating and cooling contractor another $1,000 in training, and then another $500 a year, and they can do it all online. We found that was a great training to help heating and cooling contractors understand high-performance homes, but we also know it can jack up the price of your projects. And so the thing about LEED now is what they've said is, if you have that heating and cooling contractor certified credential, you can get an extra point in the energy section, but it's not required. So just to confirm, you don't have to have a certified Energy Star home, but all the documents and the checklists do need to be filled out. And that HVAC contractor, I think it would benefit you to have them certified, but we know there are financial barriers to that, so it's not required. And then for LEED Midrise, it's evolved from the ASHRAE 2007 90.1 to now being 15% above that to now being only 5%. I should have put that in there. 5% above 2010 as your starting point for energy efficiency. And then from there, now what this is new is the multifamily high-rise certification program. Has a lot to do with commissioning, and there's a lot of details about it. We did a whole webinar about it, so you can check it out on our website or on the USGBC website. But you have to follow that or the prescriptive pathway. And if you follow the prescriptive pathway and pick up the V4 manual, it lays out all of the things that your energy modeler and your rater are going to need to do for following the prescriptive pathway if you're not going to do the performance multifamily high-rise program. All right, so what to pick? What's the difference? Why would you pick mid-rise versus low-rise versus new construction? So if you have a low-rise building and you have 5 stories or less, so if you're 6 stories, you can't do low-rise. You need to have, in the 4 to 5 region, you need to have decentralized heating, ventilation, cooling, as well as hot water heating. All has to be unit by unit so that the occupants can control their own comfort. And we also find that that actually can significantly, with the right training for the occupants, reduce utility bills. So there is a benefit to it. And then at least has to be 50% or more in the 4 to 5 region of residential square footage. In the mid-rise, there's no more cap. There used to be a cap. You can do up to a 100-story building as long as it's 50% residential. And that can be centralized or decentralized systems. But again, if it's 4 to 5 story range and it's centralized systems, then you're going to want to be using the mid-rise protocol for the program. All right, the other prerequisite, this used to be in the education and awareness section of LEED for Homes 2008, which has now been completely removed. And now this is here, so it has a full-blown requirements. We have some online resources. Enterprise Green Community or Enterprise Green Communities have some great resources you can use to build out a homeowner manual, a tenant manual, or a building manager manual, as well as the requirements of the trainings that either homeowners, tenants, and or building managers need to go through. But the whole idea here is that you can build a green building, but if it's not operating correctly, you're going to have failures in energy efficiency and energy costs, and you're going to have potential health risks to the occupants and the homeowner if the building isn't maintained and certified. And on that note, if you're interested now, 20 unit or more projects can use the buildings, LEED existing buildings operations and maintenance. So some people want to have that continuous certification. And so this kind of gets you started into that LEED EBOM section, which can be used now on multifamily buildings, 20 stories or 20 units or more, or a scattered site project as well. The other unique requirement is, this mostly falls into multifamily, is that every single residential unit now has to have a meter, an electric meter, and then the entire building, individual building, so if it's a site development, you can't just do a one site meter, has to have a gas meter. And while we're here, every single unit now also has to have water metering on it, so that you can work with the tenants to help them understand their usage and make reductions. I don't have this information yet, but I'm going to get it. What we're going to do is look at sort of the R value, insulation, air sealing, air change per hour requirements, and compare them to the building codes, international energy codes, to the other green building programs. We're building that out, but again, if you're looking at the prescriptive pathway, you can take a look at the manual and at the checklist, and it'll detail out what all those are as far as what R values you need to hit and all those requirements. All right, build it tight, ventilate it right. indoor environmental quality, EQ, is an important section. Again, on the left, everything light orange is Midrise, and then darker orange is Midrise only. Oh, and there's a question here about gas metering, and so yes, if there is, if a building, which is happening more, and we hope to see it happen more, but it doesn't have gas, it does not need a gas meter. That would be accurate. So anyway, so the only unique thing here for Midrise is no environmental tobacco smoke. Interestingly, we've got a single-family home that's helping serve a homeless population, housing first, really cool. And on the single-family side, we actually have to look at this no environmental tobacco smoke issue that you can see down there at the right. But that's actually not required, but it is something just from a health standpoint we're taking a look at. But anyway, this has pretty much remained the same as far as what you need to do. Make sure you've got your basic combustion ventilation, stealing away from the garage or having no garage, having radiant-resistant construction in Zone 1 from the EPA. The MERV filtration, they used to reward you some extra points for having a MERV filter of 10 or 13. Now it's just have to have an 8. Enhanced ventilation, so if you're using balance systems, if you're using HRV, ERV credit, you know, getting moisture out of the building, having testing being done on the balancing of the systems, making sure that the hood range and the bath fans are vented appropriately and then tested to be done. So, you know, making sure you have sealed fireplaces. You know, pretty standard stuff. The other thing that's new, well, here we go. The other thing that's new here is that's been added is the certified. First of all, the no and low VOC paints and sealants have been moved out of the materials section and moved into this section, and now they have to be certified. So you can't just have one that says yeah, it's no or low VOC. It actually has to carry the certificate with it. Which I found is, I know Home Depot's made a huge response to that, and I know it's really starting to become very easy to find those certified paints. The other thing is that multifamily housing, and we have a whole session on this too, so you can check that on our website if you want to learn more about what to do and what the strategies are. But multifamily housing, we're looking at unit by unit air sealing, right? So in the past, we were just worried about heat leaking out of the building. Now we're worried about each individual's occupant's comfort and health. You know, you never know what's going on in that next unit over, sound, somebody's cooking, knows what they're cooking, and getting pulled over and ruining the health of the occupant next door. So we're looking at sealed units as a requirement, and then getting extra credit if you can seal it even tighter. And then they are exploring this whole, and I imagine in the future we're going to have actual air quality thresholds we have to hit in LEED. But right now they're exploring it, and they have an option for testing. You can get some extra points if you can hit some certain thresholds and you want to do single family VOC, TVOC, carbon dioxide, moisture testing in the building. So for water, pretty straightforward, not too much has changed here. If you're using, I guess the big thing is the performance now, the prescriptive pathway, and they've gotten rid of recycled municipal water. If you're using the prescriptive pathway, all of your devices have to be certified under the WaterSense program. There are no points if the whole house is certified WaterSense. We're just talking about the fixtures. And then, of course, you're still looking at you know, using drought-tolerant turf, drought-tolerant native adaptive species to avoid extra water use. And then if you're using rainwater and gray water capture systems. But what's unique is now the water performance pathway, and we found this to be a benefit for projects that might, for example, the toilets, they're concerned about the low flow rates of those toilets because they're serving a certain population. So one example here is that, you know, with the performance pathway, you can do basically you do trade-offs. So you say, well, We're not going to be able to get the flow rate down on those, but we can go outside and we can get the flow rate down that way. We can reduce the flow rates of the dishwasher, the lavatory, you name it. You get points based on your total reduction. I think the other cool thing about this performance pathway is it starts getting us aware of how much water we're really using, our projects are using, our clients are using, and you can enter into a conversation of total water costs. Water costs are going up, and what those costs are going to be over the lifetime of the building, and really have that. This really gives you that ability to have that that conversation. So they have a whole checklist that calculates out predicted water usages right on the USGBC's website, and then they partner with EPA and the WaterSense program for the outdoor water budget calculator. And this is a pretty cool calculator because you drop in where you're at, and then you can go in and say, yeah, I've got 500 square feet of turf, and it's high water, and I've got another 1,000 square feet of natural trees or whatever plants, and it's low water usage. And again, this will spit out what your predicted water usage is for the site, which then you plug into the total water performance pathway system. So it's free to use. Go on WaterSense's website, check it out. You can use it to help work with your landscape architect to design your next project. All right, moving on to sustainable sites. Not much has changed here. We're looking at minimizing the construction and disturbance area. Landscaping has actually been moved to water. I should have put that there. Again, preventing erosion, having permeable sites. All of the non-toxic pest control is still there. And then compact development has been moved to location and transportation. The biggest change in here is now they're using EPA's pollution prevention guidelines to stop dust. And this is on projects that I think are 1 acre or more. You have to follow the full-blown EPA guidelines on preventing, sort of that dust kicking up into the air, from your project. All right, location and transportation, formerly locations and linkages. This actually never exists in new construction, and so now it's actually a part of even the building design and construction commercial rating system. Big things we're looking at here, I mean, a lot of this you can't control, so it's just a matter of if you're setting your site in a more urban area versus suburban versus rural area. And there are some trade-offs. So you have to get 8 full points to certify in either energy and atmosphere or location and transportation, or you split those up. So what that basically means is the farther you move out of a more urban area with more connectivity, with more community resources, more access to networks and bike and transit, the more energy efficiency you're going to have to put into the building. But if you are in a more urban area, you can actually, what then their reasoning is that you're reducing transportation usage, and you probably have a smaller house, less room for insulation, so you don't have to focus as much on the energy efficiency side as far as just meeting the baseline requirements. But you have to get 8 points between the two to certify. One thing, LEED has always taken a lot of slack for, having a bicycle storage center. Well, now you have to have the storage center, but there also has to be a verified network that is bike friendly. Otherwise, you can't get credit in the bicycle network. And now compact development is here, so more units per square feet per acreage, more density. There is a limit. They're actually in 2008 they actually probably went a little overboard on the density when they're finding problems and having too dense urban areas. So they've actually cut that limit back on this section. And one thing, I just wanted to point out in the floodplain avoidance, a real key one here. Even in the 100-year floodplain, we've seen in places like Boulder, Colorado. In 2013, we saw the 500-year floodplain impacted. And I think just this year in Louisiana, we saw the 1,000-year floodplain impacted. So really thinking through where you're putting your buildings. If you are in a floodplain, they do allow as long as you're following the local building code for designing, building the house up or whatever those requirements are, they will allow you to get away with that. But, I really do challenge teams to consider where they're putting their projects. Maybe it's 100 years down the road that they get destroyed, but it is something to think about now with the full effects of climate change really coming out. And again, the other thing to note is that, yes, you can have a gold, platinum certified project that is rural. It does not have to be in the inner city to get to the level. It's just going to take more, and depending on how big the project is, it might take renewable energy to get to the platinum level now. You're really going to have to look at your energy efficiency in the more rural settings. All right, materials and resources. This is the one that everybody, I guess you could say all of the drama circles around as far as in the commercial rating system. But in the homes rating system, it's a little toned down. Some pretty basic stuff. We're just making sure that you don't have illegally harvested wood. Right now, that's only FSC certified wood that comes from tropical forests. So if you're getting all of your wood from US, Canada, no problem. They are looking in SFI, the Sustainability Forestry Initiative, has made some significant changes to their program, and so there could be a chance that you can get that. I think there is a pilot credit if you have non-illegal tropical wood, and so SFI I think is one of those ways to do that. And then we're also looking at durability management. So basically, the entire durability evaluation form and that whole big checklist thing has been completely removed from 2008, if you remember that big behemoth, and it's now replaced with the Energy Star water management checklist. And so the Energy Star water management checklist is required to have the builder go through that or have them create their own water management checklist that's similar to that one. So if they have their own in-house one. And then if the rater wants to verify the durability, again, we're looking at flashing, we're looking at the proper siding techniques, we're looking at the proper drainage away from the foundation, water away from the foundation. We're just trying to make sure that water isn't going to rot the house and then have to get it replaced, which seems very simple, but more than often when you focus on energy efficiency and indoor air quality, these kinds of things can get missed, especially in renovation. So, so there is following that Energy Star water management checklist, and then having the rater come through and verify it is an extra point in the rating system. Environmentally preferred products has pretty much stayed the same, though there are some caveats. So we're looking at post-consumer recycled content in many of the building components. We're looking at locally sourced, or we're looking at refurbishment in renovated projects to get some extra points in the rating system. And then as far as the efficient rating system, they've removed that whole waste order factor thing, and that having the rater check to make sure that your wood is covered on the site. But they are still looking at 2x6 lumber, 24-inch end center, California coder, corners, headers size to load, and then if you're using things like structurally insulated panels or prefabrication, there's no extra points for prefab, but there are a lot of benefits to it that are inherent in this in this area. And looks like I left out waste management, but I have another section for that too. So biggest changes, what used to be a 500-mile mine manufactured now has gone down to 100 miles if you want local points. So I think the point here is, hyper-regional, keep the money in the local economy. Very difficult. Around here we used to be able to get our drywall from Chicago and pick that up. Now we don't. So it is what it is. They used to do rapidly renewable, like bamboo. Found out that that actually could be very environmentally damaged. So now they actually have a bio-based certification. So if there's bio-based products that you're using that are more naturally grown and grown in America, you can pick up credits for that. And there's a whole rating system or certification for that bio-based system. LCA I'll get into in a second, but the landfill diversion, so now you don't have to investigate local options for waste diversion, and you don't have any requirements to divert waste, but waste diversion is now based on home size and number of bedrooms rather than just a flat-out number. So there's a whole calculation you have to do, and one of the partners who works on LEED actually developed a calculator for it. We haven't checked to see if it's accurate, but we can share it with anybody if they want it. And I think USGBC will design one. But basically what you're looking at is, based on the number of bedrooms and square footages, you're looking at getting assigned a waste value and then reducing from there. So again, smaller projects with more bedrooms in this sense, to some degree, are also rewarded and makes it easier for them to get more points for their waste reduction. So that's the whole calculator. I'll be upfront about that, and hopefully we'll have something formal from USGBC soon. But in the meantime, I think we might have something that gets you pretty close. And I always like to mention this: LEED only certifies. LEED does not certify products, so there's no LEED certified products out there. It certifies homes, it accredits people, and then it gives rewards for the green certification attributes, as we discussed previously. And so the LCAs, the material transparency, a lot of those get rewarded in the commercial rating system, but they don't exist in the homes rating system. And so a lot of that frustration about that has caused an uproar, causing some states to ban LEED in their state buildings and what have you, does not exist in the residential rating system. Though I would say life cycle analysis on any product material is probably the way we're headed, and definitely a good strategy. Last but not least, I kind of crunched these two together. Innovation has been pulled out of the IP section and given its own section. And then we've got this new thing called regional priority. So this is where, in this section, you've got your required preliminary rating. So basically all that's saying is that, before you built the project, the rater just needs to verify that you came up with a targeted rating. What is it? Where do you want to go? What's your goal? It's pretty much goal setting, which would happen during the integrative design process. We're going to get to gold. Here's the points we're going after, and that's that. And then pilot credits, there's a whole list of pilot credits on USGBC's website, some really cool ones like universal design strategies, which I think is just getting very important. We have to incorporate the social side of sustainability. We have to ensure that people have access to the buildings and homes that we're building who may face all sorts of different challenges. Access to stairs, acoustics, gardening opportunities. So if you've got, whether it's a multifamily or single family building, if you've got a certain size designed plot to do gardening, or if you're buying your residents' shares of community supported agriculture, there's some extra credits for that. And then, of course, innovation, we want to hear from all the project teams about something new they came up with that helps reduce material usage, that reduces waste, that increases energy efficiency or improves health or water. And so you can submit an innovation credit. But before you do, go online and look at all of USGBC's innovative submissions to see which ones were accepted and rejected, because there's a pretty good chance someone may have thought of some variation of what you thought of. And so before you go and reinvent the wheel, go online and take a look. But there are extra credits for that. If you have a LEED accredited professional in the homes category, homes only, the whole idea is that they know what they're doing, and so you can pick up an extra point, which is located in this category now. They have to be AP Homes before the certification or the registration of the project, not after. So they have to have that credential, and all of the training now has been converted to V4, so it's not under the old rating system. And then regional priority, you can go onto their website, type in regional priority. This is something that each of the USGBC chapters came up with, and I think gets refreshed. And what they do is they get like 9 or 10 different priorities in each region. So for example, here in Michigan, we're a cold weather climate. So we have 3 or 4 credits that give you extra points if you have low air changes per hour, increased insulation, lower HERS index, because you know, a lot of our energy is sucked up in the wintertime when it gets cold. So it's basically double dipping. So it's basically saying, yep, if you have an air change of 3.5 or less in Michigan, then you get that point there, but then you also get it here. And so that's, you know, in some places you might have water efficiency. In drought-prone regions, you might getting a lower water usage. So again, if you can reduce your water usage, you get the points in the water section, but then you can pick up the renewable, regional as well. So check that out. You can go online, check out the regional credits, type in the zip code of the project, and it will pop up and tell you which one it is. And I imagine they redo these every so often, so make sure you get engaged at your local chapter, who I think sets these up and you know, keeps them going. They're really designed to be changed, it looks like. So, so for those of you new to LEED or the Homes program, LEED NC, this is how it works. You've got GBCI, that's sort of verifying the certification. You've got the USGBC that, you know, manages and delivers and educates. And then you've got the project team, which has a commissioning agent who may or may not be third party, a LEED AP who may or may not be. And that's how that works. But with Homes, you've got us, who's the provider, and we basically are essentially LEED Online. Everything gets submitted to us from a third-party green rater who may or may not be on our staff, depending on what provider you work with. We actually don't have any green raters on staff here. We work with all individual raters from different firms. And so that green rater is going out and visually inspecting the project, and the provider is doing quality assurance on that rater. And then on an individual project level, the rater is responsible to get everything from the project team to the provider, who then submits it to the United States Green Building Council directly, and then make sure that everything is done accurately. So we're actually re-inspecting all of the rater's work at a certain percentage in the field, which is something that doesn't happen in the commercial world. So if you're looking for a particular provider, you can go onto USGBC's website and you can search the directory and get a list of all the LEED for Homes providers out there. And if you're trying to get a project done, depending on where you're at, some service different regions. We primarily serve the Midwest and Northeast, but people are all in different regions that they serve. So again, for the LEED rater, their role is to provide field verification services, review all of the documentation, product specs, calculations. They're ideally involved in the preliminary rating. They're providing the submittal package, getting it over to us as a provider, and they either are qualified HERS index rater or energy modeler, or they're working with them. And they're responsible for their work ultimately. And so you can have a HERS index rater on staff as long as they sign a conflict of interest form. But the LEED green rater must be separate from that person on that staff. Most of the time we find that if the LEED green rater is the HERS rater or energy modeler, it just gets one cook out of the kitchen and allows the project to flow more smoothly. But at the end of the day, some raters are really good at the documentation side and not good at the energy modeling, and so they have a partnership. And it can go either way. So that's sort of the delivery model. Now, you can also go online and you can search for accredited and credentialed LEED green raters on the green rater directory page to figure out where they're at and get different bids. You can go to our website, and we have a more, our green rater directory is going to have a little more information on it as we build it out. It'll talk about what areas these raters serve, and we'll even mention if they're also HERS raters and how many projects they've done. So if you're looking to qualify them based on experience, that could be important to you. All right, so the phases again, choosing a rater and a provider, getting the early plan and design going on, getting your preliminary rating and energy modeling done, and then registering the projects with the United States Green Building Council, From there, you've got the construction process happening, and that rater is going to be there during the pre-drywall to inspect behind the insulation, inspect the ductwork before everything gets sealed up. And I tell you what, we catch so many problems behind the drywall, improperly installed stuff. And so they're there to just weed those problems out and then ideally help your team correct the issue. They're not really there to necessarily just be a policeman, but to say, how can we correct this? How can we work on this? They can't do it themselves, but they, work with your team to do this and make sure we avoid it next time. And then the rater's coming back doing the final energy inspection and test out. If you've got a large multifamily or single-family development, they're probably going to be doing something called sampling, where they'll test individual units or homes at a rate that's 7, and then 1 out of 7 is usually the rate that we see. So that can significantly cut the cost on your end. And if your builder and subs are all doing what they're supposed to be doing, you shouldn't have any failures. And if there are failures, then the rater is going to be coming back and charging a little more to do more testing. But that is one of the benefits is the program does have for the final testing a sampling protocol. So you got to connect with your rater and your provider to figure that out. And then they're maybe coming back. We see this all the time where the landscape just especially in the homeowners, it's just not finished. It doesn't get finished for 2 years. So they're going to be coming back to just verify the landscape installation. If there's irrigation, they're going to be verifying it is what you say it is and that it's working. And then from there, they'll have all the documentation assembled. Certificate packet gets sent to us, the provider. We check that work, and then it goes to the USGBC, and then you get your notice of certification, your certificate back. And we help celebrate your success online, or help you do project tours, or Facebook Live tours, or what have you. All right, so LEED for homes versus LEED new construction. Again, there's just a lot more onus on residential living from a health standpoint. It's not to say LEED NC doesn't have a health component, because it certainly does. But there's just more focus on residential health as far as unit compartmentalization and combustion safety and exhaust and radon mitigation if you're using the Midrise program on larger projects. The other thing is that there's a lot less documentation on the LEED for Homes and Midrise program, and especially now that V4 is out, it's even less. So the whole goal is that your third-party rater is in there visually verifying everything and checking your work, but we're not looking for massive LEED Online submittals that you normally see on the new construction side. So that could certainly, in many ways, cut costs to having somebody do all of that documentation overview. So all we're looking for at the end of the project is a signed initial checklist by the rater only, so no more accountability forms. 4 photos from the northeast-west side of the building, south side, the energy models, the floor plans, the elevations, and basically if you do water calcs, we just want to see the water calculations. And then if there are any conflict of interest forms that need to be signed, such as the energy rater or the Midrise energy modeler serving as the green rater, because that gets a little into the design phase. We would have them sign that conflict of interest form. Or if you've got a large firm where the green rater worked on the project and then maybe someone else in that firm helped with HVAC sizing, again, we'd want to see a conflict of interest form submitted as well. So again, LEED Online is not used, which is where all the documentation typically happens in the NC world. So in the homes world, depending on who your provider is, you get different programs. We use Box.com. It's a program we give out for free to everyone who signs up for our project. And at the end of the day, you can use this as much or as little as you want. The green rater is ultimately responsible for having all of the documentation loaded up here. But this is a great opportunity for you as the project team leader to invite the builder, architect, owner, developer, landscape architect into certain folders and have them upload their documentation that the rater's looking for. And it's just a really, really good practice to document everything and have it up somewhere and have it accessible. It can certainly help with any potential issues down the road, legal issues, what have you. And so if you don't have your own internal documentation program, you can use ours or you can connect ours with yours, but this is just here for you to use if you want to. It's not required, but it is required for the rater to get everything up there. Dormitories now can use the LEED for Homes rating system, so that's something to consider. I know in the past, low-rise projects on college campuses used to use the LEED new construction, but now they have to use LEED for Homes. And then, yeah, overall, LEED is LEED, so very excited at anybody who commits to LEED building, no matter which rating system they use. And you just have to consider some of these different factors from costs, how fast you want it to certify, how much documentation you need to dig up, and how familiar the team is with each of the rating systems. Overall, some of the costs, again, are mostly in the hard costs for increasing energy efficiency and sustainability. And then you've got some very small, the green rater obviously is the one, the feet on the street doing all the verification work. So essentially, their costs are going to be a little bit higher. And then you've got some insignificant provider and USGBC fees. And of course, you've got learning curve costs for design assistance, design reviews. Again, if you're doing training, education for your team. Have they built green before? Have they built any of like Energy Star or green communities? All of those different factors can be correlated to the overall upfront costs of a program. On average, we see about $2,500 a home or a unit, but that can significantly get reduced based on volume, sampling with no failures, and again, project team relationships and experience. The Enterprise Green Communities program is basically based off LEED for Homes, and now that LEED V4 is here, they're pretty comparable programs. The thing to know about Enterprise Green Communities is that it has some unique pathways for brick renovations, especially if they're all brick buildings. Brick buildings that mechanics, they have some easier than LEED. You see a lot of pads. The National Green Building Standard can certify any building. From a LEED standpoint, it doesn't require ASHRAE energy model or Energy Star certification or HERS index rating, and has some other unique factors to it, but follows many of the same requirements as LEED, but it can be used on any size building. Some of the unique things about it is they don't allow any sampling, so if you've got large projects or large developments, every single unit has to be checked. But on the flip side, they have lower soft costs than LEED for Homes does. And they, if you're doing a mixed use building, they do not require that the commercial space be impacted in any way, but LEED does have requirements for the commercial. Now, the Passive House program and the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready program, both ones that we've done webinars on that you can check out on our YouTube channel or our USGBC channel, actually go really well with LEED. You can basically knock out a majority of all of your energy points, health points, indoor air quality points by using the Passive House certification program. And so we find that these two systems really work well. Passive House really showcases the energy efficiency side, while LEED helps the builder know that they've got sustainable materials, water efficiency, helps the client know that, and helps them understand the whole, the sustainability side beyond energy. So these, LEED actually has a whole thing that says if you meet Passive House, you basically knock out all of these other credits in the energy and health side. So anyway, we have a whole session, and we're actually going to be doing another one here in the fall, or in the spring rather, updating it on how you compare all of these different rating systems if you're interested in which one's best for your project. We have a whole full-blown Understanding LEED for Homes version 4 that really takes a super deep dive on a category by category system that we did with Jay Hall, one of the chief reviewers of the LEED program. So make sure to check that out on our USGBC education channel as well. So that's all I have today, and I'm going to be sticking around to take some questions. This course is approved for 1 hour in continuing ed, so make sure you check your email or spam for your certificate, take the survey, and report your GBCI. I am going to be dropping that GBCI number here for you in the chat box, so you can get access to that. But that's all we have here. Are there any questions or comments I can help anybody with? So we'll probably go ahead and wrap up, but I appreciate everyone's time. My name is Brett Little. I'm the Executive Director here at the Green Home Institute. You can learn more about the LEED program at usgbc.org, and if you're interested in working with us, greenhomeinstitute.org, click on Services, and check out LEED for Homes. So thanks for your time, everybody. Take care.